What's going on? You know who it is. You know what it is. It's the Sizzle here on Skillet Radio. Before we get ready to get into it, I've got to introduce my partner in crime, Jay Sizzle, in the building. What's good, Jay?
Man, I'm good, man. I'm enjoying myself, man. It's 1,055 degrees outside, but it's cool in here.
Yes, sir. And it's hot in here because we're getting ready to give you the hot 5 in 5.
Iron Skillet Sports presents.
All right, Jay, let's get started, man. Topic number 1. Let's talk about the Redskins. Dan Snyder and the Redskins. It's been a mess what's going on in the NFL, but it's tied into what's going on in the world. So what do you think about the Redskins changing their name?
What's taking them so long? I mean, how long? This has been going on for a long period of time. It's amazing to me how people are looking at this going, well, I don't know why the Redskins need to change. What about if we started out a new football team called the Huntington Beach Hunkies? Would that be a problem?
I think so.
I think it'd be a problem. You know what I'm saying? So we have indigenous people here in the United States who have been put on a reservation and put outside to rust, dust, and be set aside. And to have this slur be on a football team's masthead for decades now. It's time for this thing to be gone. Find another name. Find another way to do it. It should have been done a long time ago.
Next on the Hot 5 in 5, we've got Formula One racing, F1 racing. Look, man, the racers all embrace the Black Lives Matter movement. Tell the listeners quickly what happened with F1 and the racers.
Here's the amazing thing about this. These guys, F1 racers, the race was in Australia, and 14 out of the 20 racers before the race started, the national anthem of Australia started playing, and those 14 guys took a knee. Now, all these guys had on shirts that said, a black shirt that says end racism. I know that Lewis Hamilton had on a T-shirt that actually said Black Lives Matter. But I'm looking at the progression of F1. Most of these guys are European drivers, and they took a knee. But if you look at NASCAR, we didn't see anybody take a knee over in NASCAR. It's really interesting. This is really interesting right now.
It is interesting, and it is something that we've got to look at moving forward. But hey, I got another topic to talk about. Serena Williams and baby Serena, Miss Olympia. Is she the next Serena Williams?
I don't know, but she looks so she was out there in her little purple onesie like her mom had on. And she looked like she was ready to play some tennis. Like, it's cool that Serena's being a cool mom, and she's out there, playing tennis with a little girl. Is she going to be the next, great tennis player? I don't know, but she's going to have a great life because she surely has a head start with a mom like Serena Williams and the cachet that she brings.
Number 4 on the Hot 5 in 5, we've got Cam and Odell working out. Is this a future of things to come?
No, it just shows that Cam can throw the football. But, this workout went on right before Cam got signed. Right. And so it showed that he was able to throw the football. Next thing we know, we see he's up there working with Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots. I think that had a lot to do with it. As you can see, he could throw the ball. Odell looked good. He was catching the football. So it's a good thing.
Lastly, on the Hot 5 in 5, Jay, did you get your pair of Air Jordans?
Look, man, I'm still buying the shoes with the Velcro that come over the top of it. I don't know. I don't know nothing about no Air Jordans or nothing like this. I said, what is about? How many people? I think it was like 2 million people were trying to get these shoes. Well, how many was that, Greg? How many people were trying to get these shoes?
There were only 8,000 pairs domestically released. They made 13,000, but it was only 8,000 pairs made. But 5 million people were trying to get a pair of the new Dior high tops or low top Air Force Ones or Jordan ones.
This is that underground that people who are over 50 sneaker universe that we don't know nothing about. That people are 5 million people. So what these shoes go on sale for, like a couple of $100, something like that, 200, 250.
Sir, did you say a couple of hundred?
I don't know. I'm old. How much do they go for?
I believe the high top version went for 2,400, and the low top version went for 2,200.
Did you say 2,400? That is a used car. I'm not going to walk with a used car on my feet. No.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Dude,
sir.
This is the whole issue right here. And people go out here and spend this money for these shoes. That's why you notice all these guys out here, they'll have on a trashy pair of jeans, but those shoes are fantastic. I'm still wearing the same pair of gym shoes, and I call them gym shoes, I've had for the last 10 years.
And that is your Hot 5 in 5. Listen, Jay, let's talk about it a little bit more, because we talked about it at the beginning of the Hot 5 in 5. Let's talk about the Redskins and Dan Snyder and what's going on as far as the moves that are being made. Now, it's been reported that 3 of the minority owners in the ownership group are trying to sell. They've actually contacted a firm looking to move their interest in the firm. And also we have the president who has said, oh, you naughty people, don't change your name. It's what you are. It's who you are. You guys would love it. You should be Redskins forever. So does that work with you? This whole thing that the Redskins should stay the Redskins because they're the Redskins.
No, it's just wrong, and it's been wrong all this period of time. That's why I say these old traditions that are steeped in some form of racism, it needs to be stopped. It's time for the Confederate flag to come down. It's time for that Confederate flag, that piece of emblem, to come down off of the state of Mississippi flag. It's time for the Redskins to stop running around with a caricature of a human being on the side of their helmet. That's not flattering. I mean, we don't say anything about that. I'm wearing a Notre Dame shirt right now, but we don't say anything about the Fighting Irish, the little logo of the little leprechaun on there, because there aren't any leprechauns. You know what I'm saying? Nobody's really concerned about it. But Redskins was a derogatory term that was used to talk about the indigenous people of the Americas. And that's what it was. They're saying, oh, well, it's something that they could use this for, showing them they were great people and so forth and so on. No. It's time for them to change the Redskins name. If those minority owners don't want to be part of it, then get out. Nobody really cares if you stay anyway. That's the main thing. Some people think they're so important that by them getting out is going to make a big difference. No, nobody really cares.
You know, it's funny. We talked about it before, and we've talked about it on segments, how even with the minority owners, this is not their main source of income. So it's not like these owners, they have to have their ownership stake in making their money in life. They've already made their money, and now they have an ownership. They have stake in a team that's bringing them back money. But this isn't the biggest thing for all of them. So I'm wondering now, what is really the consternation? Why is everybody so upset about changing a name? Does it really affect the bottom line that much?
No, the Redskins are ranked 7th in the NFL, calculated their team's worth $3.4 billion. So I'm wondering if these guys right now are trying to cash out too. You know, on that side of it. You know, maybe time now they figure it's iron's hot, you know, people gonna want to get involved. Maybe some minority ownership wants to pull some money together and jump in and be part of the Redskins organization. Now's the time to get out and cash our little ticket to get out of here. The problem is now you still have racism rooted in our sports, rooted in the ownership of our sports. And it's still a minstrel show, regardless of what we think about it. It's still a majority of black athletes playing in these major sports that are being owned by a majority of white ownership. And we look at it from this situation, and they were slow to change because it doesn't matter to them. This Black Lives Matter movement wouldn't matter to them at all had it not affected players and teams down lines and their earnings going down the line. That's the only reason why this Black Lives Matter movement they really care anything about it. I mean, you look at Roger Goodell, what did he do? He literally fell on his sword, you know, because all of a sudden because of those players who decided to say, hey, you know what? We're coming together. We might band together. We might not play. I mean, we have enough money. We have enough money per se with us. We could just not suit up next year. Now what's the NFL going to do? Oh, the NFL, Roger Goodell put on his Black Lives Matter T-shirt and was, had his arm around Colin Kaepernick, literally, and was like, "Hey, baby, I'm sorry, but please, I'm taking a knee too." So
Yeah.
it's
It's
amazing.
kind of crazy. Yeah, it's amazing. So let's do it real quick because I know Cleveland wants to find a new name, and I know the Redskins want to find a new name, which something to me just inherently sounds wrong about calling them the Washington Redskins. It's just me. Maybe it isn't me, but if we had to pick a name, what would be a great name for the Washington Redskins right now?
A really good name would probably be the Washingtons. We're not going to win the championship no time soon. That would be a good name for them.
Yeah. See, this is why.
Too long. It won't fit on the helmet too long.
No, I don't even know if you can get a symbol for that. Can you get a what would be the mascot?
Oh, see, you put the circle with the slash and a trophy. You put the Lombardi trophy on there with a circle and a slash to it. That'd be it. We ain't winning that no time soon.
You know what? I can't do it with you right now. Listen, when we come back from break, we're going to talk about someone who's getting ready to make history, a maker getting ready to make history. You're listening to The Sizzle here on Iron Skillet Radio, Iron Skillet Television. We'll see you on the other side. You know what it is. You know who it is. It's The Sizzle here on Iron Skillet Radio, Iron Skillet Television. Thank you for coming back and joining us on our new segment. We're going to talk about makers making history. That's right. We're going to talk about Makur Maker making history right now. It's amazing. You have the first African-American, African-born player, Australian immigrated player. It doesn't matter. We've got the first player who is officially committing to a historically black university as a player in the fall. So, Jay Sizzle, let me throw it to you very quickly. What do you think about Maker making history?
This is interesting right now, at this point in history that we're in, that you're starting to see top flight recruits starting to go to these HBCUs. And you're actually starting to see in the last couple of months that these HBCUs are really going after players because of this time in history. All of them are trying to grab in this big recruit that they could have never gotten before because now it gives them a chance to win. And one or two players, we've seen it happen. One or two players can turn it around, and it's possibly they give them a chance to get a bid into the NCAA tournament. So this is really interesting. This guy's 6'11". He went and visited Howard. He liked it there. The last time we had a player from the HBCU that went to the NBA, I think a kid came out of I think Kyle O'Quinn or something like that. Came out of Norfolk State. Yeah. So this is a real get for them. Now the wonder now are other players going to come down into these HBCUs, because we do understand now, even at Grambling football, we know sometimes in these HBCUs that they don't have the type of amenities that these bigger programs have. True. And so now I'm curious now, are these guys, these five-star recruits who might have an opportunity to go to the league or go play in the G League, are they going to be satisfied with going in and playing at a school like Howard, who has a great history of greatness in educational wise, but the facilities aren't what a major program's facilities would be like? So I'm very interested on that, about what's going to happen. What do you think about that?
Well, you've always mentioned that players should go places where they get an opportunity to play. And when you look at a situation, I've talked to some players recently and wondering how they feel about it, just to gauge what their sense would be. And now players are saying, if I can play, if I had my druthers between the two, if I had to choose between Kentucky and maybe another school that's not as prominent, but I can play and I become the man when I step on campus, versus having to sit maybe 2 or 3 seasons, or I get in and I never learn the fundamentals and I'm playing, but I don't really know. I think you're going to see a switch now. And the one thing with Maker that makes him so special, from what I read, was that he said if he was serious about making a social justice and social impact, that this was the move he had to make, that he had to actually go to a historically black university and be one of the forerunners, one of the trailblazers to go out there. And he's on the move now to try and recruit other 5-stars. But, okay, so if you can't get a 5-star, Jay, can you at least get a 4-star? Can you get that 4 or 3-star recruit that wants to come in and wants to make this program special?
Well, they're hoping so. I mean, they're hoping so. Mr. Blakely down there is saying, we can't mess this up. We got a 5-star recruit. That doesn't usually happen. The question is now, can they develop him as a basketball player? That's the question. Because this guy's ranked number 16 in the top 100 right now. Mm-hmm. And he's sort of filling out what the draft is going to be like. He's even thought about maybe even going to the G League. However, if he doesn't look like he's going to get drafted early, he would pull his name out of the draft. So what does that tell you? He's not a shoe-in to make it in the NBA. He's 6'11". Now he's got his cousin, I believe, Don Blakely, who plays for the Detroit Pistons.
Yeah,
he's
Don Maker. Right,
yeah,
he's a big guy. Right. He's a big body. He's a solid. He's a 7-footer with about a size 22, 24 shoe. Yeah, he's a big body.
Right. So now we're looking at he's got pedigree to get into the league, but there's not a shoe-in that he's going to get in. So the question is, at this point, we've seen a lot of top first-round picks don't make any form of hay in the NBA. So the question is, can an Howard University basketball team, who's not used to having this type of talent on its campus, can they develop this guy so that he'll have an opportunity to play in the NBA? Because that's why they go to these big schools, the Kentuckys and UCLA's and these big schools. That's why they go there, to be developed. If they can develop this guy and he looks good and he goes high in the NBA draft, that might bring in another line of other kids who'll come in and play at these HBCUs. We're going to see. It's going to be interesting. But if they can't come in and get developed, and now he's not as developed as he would have been if he went to a big program, then you might see the sieve. You might see the spigot being turned off and these players going there because they don't have the facilities or the coaching staff that has coached big-time talent like this before. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, Coach Blakely is going to have to really get a staff and put a staff together that can help develop him. Because I'm already seeing reports saying he is the better of the makers right now. But the question is, can you translate his 6'11", where he plays 3 to 4 positions? Can you get him on that court? Can you get him proficient at ball handling, at shooting, at rebounding, at defending? Can you make him good at the free throw line? And can you afford to get him look at the talent he's going to be playing against. It might be a possibility where he could average 40 points a game.
Well, it's possible. Is he that offensive type of guy? Because coming out of high school, he was only averaging what at the summer league program he was in, he was only averaging 14 points per game, 14.7 or something like that. And so the question is, and he's shooting 73% on his 2-pointers. That means he was getting a lot of putbacks around the basket. So is he that guy who's a high-volume shooter who can sustain getting 40 points a game? Because that's a lot of going to the basket. That's a lot of shooting. Is he that type of guy? The second question that has to be asked is, and going back to the original thing about Coach Blakely, do they have the money to hire in the people that they need to coach this type of basketball player? That's the problem with a lot of these HBCUs, is that they're financially strapped. If it wasn't for their alumni giving money back and doing some other things, a lot of them would not be able to exist because their programs, their football programs and their basketball programs don't generate enough revenue for the school to be able to use to be put into the other arts, into the other liberal arts, and have other programs going on. That's why you see them struggle like they do to stay open. Now, do you have the money to pour into a big-time program? Do you have the money to bring in these kids? Do you have the money to fly these kids? Like we know a lot of kids out of Valparaiso University, kids out, they go take trips all across Canada to come play basketball. They go take trips overseas. Can a Howard afford to do that with these type of players and give them the exposure that they need? I don't know. This is going to be really interesting to see because if they can do it and get that figured out, then you're going to have an opportunity for other players to come if the experience is good. If it's not good, though, because they talk, eventually we'll find out.
Yeah, you're going to have to tap into your P. Diddy's. You're going to have to tap into alumni, those who actually went to Howard, those who support the program. You're going to have to get them now to give money back, as you said, so these kids can go on travel. Some of them have been on travel teams, like with Maker. He's been on a team in California. That's why it was an assumption he was going to UCLA, because he's out there. But you've got to get these kids the ability to travel, exposure, and as you said, the greatest thing is their exposure to good coaching. Doesn't matter to me what competition you have if you don't have good coaching, because other than that, it just becomes a big AAU circuit where you don't get the type of training you need to get you to that next level. Are they going to teach him what he needs to be an NBA player? That's the biggest question.
And the question is, I mean, I'm not sure how the HBCU talent level is. I'm not sure. But was he seeing better talent out playing on these AAU circuits? You know, because you got a lot of top flight talent plays on these circuits going around. And a lot of that top flight talent does not end up at HBCUs. So the question is now, is he going to be dominant in a league that he shouldn't be in because of the talent level? So it's going to be interesting right now to see what happens. I'm hoping them all the best. I hope Howard does fantastic. I hope this thing works out, because I would love to see a lot of these good players go down into these HBCUs. The problem is sometimes we ask for something, we hope for something, and then when we get it, it's not exactly what we thought it was going to be. It's like the guys out here, they want to date the top flight model, and all of a sudden she smiles at you and walks over there to you, and then all of a sudden now you're tongue tied because you don't know if she wants to go riding around with you in your 2006 Town and Country van. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah. It's one of those funny things where, and now Coach Blakely has been put on notice by the world. He has to come in and compete. They have to make the field of 64. They have to get into the round of 32. They have to get into the Sweet 16. They have to get into that Elite 8, because now you've got to now recruit through your coaching that we can play with the big boys too, and that we are somebody with the big boys. But then that means you got to have a season to play in.
Yeah, well, that's another thing.
Yeah, that's the whole big thing right there.
Yeah, we might see the COVID-19s have something to say about that.
Oh, we don't want to recruit the boys to the COVID-19s. But look, we're getting ready to go to break.